Hey friends, it's Deborah. Welcome back to the channel. So today I do have to do a voiceover. I did have guests over, so I definitely had to do a voiceover. I apologize. But today I am bringing you a day of football comfort food. It is a cold and rainy fall day here in Chicago, and I thought, you know what, a big old pot of chili would be perfect. So I made a keto version and a non-keto version. Let's hop into this keto version here. I use stew meat, guys, in my chili. I like a good hearty chili. I use stew meat. I've never made it with ground beef. I've eaten it with ground beef, but I've never made it with ground beef. I like stew meat. So these are all the ingredients. I'm going to have the recipe listed down below. And let's hop into making this chili. In a large saucepan, you want to heat the avocado oil. When the oil is hot, add the onions and saute until the vegetables start to wilt, about 3 to 5 minutes. So 3 to 5 minutes later, my onions are now translucent. I do add in my salt and cayenne pepper and then mix that all together. Now that that is ready, the next step is stirring in the stew meats, the chili powder, the cumin, crushed red pepper, and oregano. You want to brown the meat for 5 to 6 minutes. Once your meat is browned, you want to add in your garlic. I like to add in the jalapeno, your tomatoes, your beef stock. If you're using regular kidney beans, go ahead and add them in now. I'm using soybeans, so I'm not going to add the beans until later. I don't want them to turn into mush. So just stir everything together. Bring the liquid up to a boil and reduce to a simmer. Simmer the liquid, cover, and stir occasionally until the beef is tender. It takes typically an hour to an hour and a half. And if you want, you can skim off any of the fat that comes to the surface. The chili is now on simmer for an hour, hour and a half. We are going to go ahead and start on the cornbread. I forgot to record this step, but that can of baby corn, it's very, very low carb. I took that and about 4 tablespoons of that sweetener, put it in a blender and made a puree of sorts. And I put it to the side, and then you'll see me incorporate that into the wet ingredients in a little bit. I did want to make a quick side note. I am using raw almond flour, meaning that that little brown skin that's on the almond was not removed. It was just all grinded up. So my cornbread comes out just a little bit darker than usual. Once you add in the flour, then you're going to go ahead and add in the additional dry ingredients. The brown sugar substitute. I love to use the Lancanto, but you can use whatever you have on hand or whatever you like to use to bake with. Next is the baking powder. How cute are my measuring spoons? I got those from World Market. I get a lot of questions on those. And just make sure you incorporate all your dry ingredients together before we start on the wet ingredients. So in a separate bowl, I like to go ahead and mix up my wet ingredients. We're going to start with our 3 eggs. I like to use Vital Farm eggs. You can use whatever you have on hand, whatever you like to use. I like to scramble up my eggs before I start adding in the other ingredients. Next is coming the sour cream and the unsweetened almond milk. And this is where I add in that puree that I made. You see how it thickened up with that xanthan gum? I went ahead and added about half of what that puree was. But I think in my next batch, I'm gonna go ahead and use the entire puree. Oh, it was so delicious. Now I'm just incorporating the dry ingredients into the wet and mixing it up and make sure that it's all mixed very well. In a small bowl, I placed the butter and the coconut oil, and I did go ahead and melt it in the microwave. It only took just under a minute. Once it was done, I made sure it was well mixed together, and I added it into the skillet. Once it's in the skillet, you just want to swoosh it around just to make sure that the bottom is all nice and evenly coated. And you want to hit up the sides a little bit as well. Once that's done, place that back into your bowl. And what you want to do with the leftover butter mixture is add it to your batter before you place it into the cast iron skillet. That is like the crucial part. It makes your cornbread taste so good and buttery and delicious. This goes into a preheated oven at 350 for 30 to 35 minutes until golden brown. And here is my finished chili. It was so delicious. And there is my cornbread. Oh my gosh, you guys. It was so buttery and delicious. I highly recommend. And a lot of times I do eat my chili with chips. I like a hearty chili. Look at that. Yum. Friends, so this is going to be our chaffle mixture. We're using 2 eggs, a half a cup of mozzarella, 1 tablespoon almond flour. I have the raw almond flour. You could see down here, I ran out. And this is what they had. You can use the normal almond flour. 1 teaspoon coconut flour, and then half a teaspoon baking powder. And to my chaffle mixture, I'm also going to add in a couple of dashes of the apple pie. All right, friends, so first make sure that your filling is ready. This, I will link my caramel apple crisp video. I will link it up above. Look at my filling, you guys. There's no water in here. It's nice and thick. Go follow that recipe. It's easy, foolproof. This legit tastes like apple with cinnamon and all the goodness. The texture holds up while you're cooking it, while you're baking it. It tastes really good. Honestly, I think the longer you let the chayote marinate in the spices, the better it's gonna taste, because I think the apple crisp tastes better the next day, just like a good pot roast. I think, in my personal opinion, it tastes better the next day. So I let the spices hang out on my chayote for a little bit. Now I'm Okay, so my glazed mixture consists of 1 tablespoon of butter, 3 tablespoons of confectioner's sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of the heavy whipping cream. You're going to have your pan on low and cook until well combined.